Hi. There. Okay, we are going to be doing. It's kind of weird that I've already done the video for the second part of this last year. I may do it again because of what we decide, but I can't really do a video for each class because we're going to do different bills. So, depending on what you vote on and all that, we'll adjust. We'll be fine. But I just want to give you an idea of the next part, which is a bit more complicated, the legislative process as it's sort of textbook, and then I'll throw in some here's real stuff going on. So once a bill is written, and a bill can be written by anyone. I didn't really write this, but anybody can write a bill. You don't have to write this down. But think about, people, just regular people. But typically members of Congress are going to write bills. That's what they're there for, I suppose. The president, think about a budget, think about this Build Back Better. He didn't really write it, but the White House was instrumental in it, in getting it written. And interest groups, which are very common as well. So what we're going to do is create an interest group, which I'll address this during the session, actually, related to the bill that we choose. Okay, so this might be a little awkward to do this virtually, but here we go. So anyway, the bill is going to be written, and legalize marijuana, lower the drinking age, whatever it is, and then it's going to be officially. Well, you got to get it going. So what normally happens is the bill. If you want to introduce a bill in the House, this is what we're going to do. It's the most common way. If you look at your sheet, where the process is listed, you can go House first, Senate next, Senate first, House next sometimes, or you can kind of do House, Senate, sort of go back and forth like this, depending on how it goes. We're going to do the classic version, House first, then Senate, and then we can adjust as we go with the rest of it. But you need to find a sponsor for your bill, and a sponsor, I don't mean like this bill brought to you by Nestle, but you find a representative who is willing to be your champion, if you will. So if you want to legalize marijuana, you're probably not going to go to Victoria Sparks. You're going to go to some, I don't know, Vermont or Northern California guy or whatever kind of thing. But anyway, this person will do the introduction, which we're going to get to, and be the one that fights for it and make sure it gets through the process and so on and so forth. Okay? So the first stage, technically introduction, is the sponsor or the sponsors take the bill and they drop it into this hopper, like this little box. It's literally like a little wooden box, and it's pop it in, and then somebody takes it out, and then they will number it. Now, normally you give your bill a name. Just depends on what you're doing, but typically, and we're not going to do this one, I would think, but if you wanted to legalize marijuana, you wouldn't say like, more weed now bill or something. You'd have something, think of the words vague and positive. So the Agricultural Choice Enhancement Act of 2022. Technically, marijuana is, a crop. Choice enhancement sounds positive. It's vague enough. You're like, oh, agricultural choice enhancement, cool. You find out what it is, like, oh. So, something like that. Don't worry about the name, but they tend to be that because, Build Back Better doesn't really, it's positive and you don't really know what the heck's going on. And until you get to the details, you don't find that out. Anyway, the bill will be given a number, and normally something like this is what you would see. HR stands for House Resolution 118, 118th Congress. So every bill is going to be HR 118 dash, and then 42 is simply 42nd bill. The next one's 43, and so on. Okay. Normally, once it gets going, they just call it HR 42, HR 46, HR 51, whatever. Okay. Then the bill will be assigned to the relevant committee. Remember, we talked about the standing committee. So the marijuana bill is going to go to the drug committee or whatever it's called. Okay. So when we get into the actual subject of what you're talking about, or what you guys decide, then it would go to that bill. So the bill in the committee, three things can happen, okay? Two are very simple, one is not. So the first one, they can just kill the bill, dead. And bills are killed for a variety of reasons. They might be ridiculous. Let's make the pigeon the national bird. They might be blatantly unconstitutional. Let's not let Asian people vote. Wouldn't be that ridiculous, but you get the idea. It might be repetitive. Another pigeon bill. Let's let the dirty dove be the national bird. It may be extra constitutional, thinking about outside the Constitution, driving ages and some of the stuff we talked about with reserved powers, states having rights that the federal government doesn't normally touch. Those are the main reasons why you'd see bills killed. Or maybe too hot. Let's legalize all abortion and pay for it. Even if that is your viewpoint, that's a pretty hot topic, to say the least, especially with this Supreme Court case coming up. Okay. Second option would be to accept it without changes. Doesn't happen. If you can imagine a group of 535 people who are used to getting their way and thinking they're the smartest person in the room, asking them to accept something without making any changes, it just is not going to happen. And thirdly, which is what we're going to do, of course, is they accept the bill and they take it through the process and we might make changes. Okay? So those are your three options. Kill, the most likely. Accept without changes, very unlikely. And accept and change, which is what we're going to do. Okay? So those are your three stages, or three options when the committee gets the bill. Okay? Quick break. All right. Now, when the committee decides to take it, okay, they have two options then within that. We're going to take and change it ourselves, or we're going to send it to a subcommittee for more specialized. If you remember, we talked about agriculture and they talked about grain and livestock and dairy and so on. So either way, the process is going to be the same. So if the bill gets to committee, it can either go to the subcommittee or they keep it. And then they're going to do what they do in that stage. Okay? So where I'm going to end this video is just talk about the first one, because the next video picks up with the second one and the third one. Okay? So the first thing that's going to happen, and you'll have this in your notes on the second video, but it's not really explained that well, is the research phase, or the research if you prefer. So think about what you might want to know. If you want to legalize marijuana, you want to know history. Where has this been done? Well, there, Washington State and California and maybe the Netherlands did this, and maybe another country, and so on. How'd it go? What were the results? What were the similarities? What were the differences? So think about the history. You might think about polling. How popular is it? How unpopular is it? 90% of your voters in your state say, I want this to pass, then, pretty good indication, to say the least. Okay, you look at polls, you look at constitutionality. So think legal issues. Will we have trouble enforcing this? And also think about financial issues. How much will it cost to implement? How much will it cost to enforce? How much will it save to implement? Think about less police searching for drug criminals, less DEA, all that kind of stuff. Money would also include taxes, possible fines, possible permits. Somebody wants to sell marijuana in a state where it's legal. It's not like you just open up a lemonade stand and start selling it. You got to pay permits and all that. Production as well. So lots of things to look at in the research phase, typically done by the staff members. Okay? And they will create a brief. If you don't know what that is, just think of, here's my research, and I'm going to right down there, and here you go, Congressman. Here's 3 pages summarizing what we look at here. So when they go into the next phase, they have an idea what they're talking about. It gives them a pretty good idea what to argue against, what to argue for, ask, and so on. So that's the research phase. The next tape, like I said, it won't be talking about marijuana, but I can address that. We'll be talking about the next two phases, and then we'll move on from there. All right. See ya.